Here you see 21 characters casting their ult, including Lingsha. But they all do one common thing. I will give you a little bit of time to find the pattern, and I will help you figure it out along the way. First of all, there is no destruction characters, no hunt characters, and no abundance characters who are here. And you might have noticed that you see Fire MC, Fuswan, and Preservation March 7th among them. Maybe now you are slowly starting to see the pattern. From the abundance pet, we got Lucha, Gallagher, and Lingsha, like I said. And from the nihility pet, everyone is there except from Luca and Silverwolf. And finally, the final pet, Erudition. All Erudition characters are here. So maybe now you might have figured it out, the common thing that they do with their ult. Because if you think a little bit, there are 59 characters in the game. And Lingsha is the 21st character to attack all enemies with her ult. That is the thing that all these characters have in common with their ult. No gimmicks, no bounces, just a guaranteed AoE attack targeting all enemies. Like I said, from the abundance pet, only Gallagher, Lingsha and Lucha attack all enemies with their ultimate. The rest of these characters, apart from Ho-Ho, heal their teammates with their ult. Because Ho-Ho gives the team energy and attack percentage with her ult. And from a destruction pet characters, no one attacks all enemies. Because Arlan attacks 3 enemies with his ult, Blade also attacks 3 enemies with his ult, Clara attacks no one with her ult, but her ult makes it so that her throw attack attacks 3 enemies. Aim to Lune attacks 3 enemies. Firefly just goes Super Saiyan mode with her ult and makes her skill attack 3 enemies. Hook attacks just a single enemy with her ult, but her basic attack gets enhanced so that it attacks 3 enemies and does more damage. Jinglui also attacks 3 enemies. Misha attacks 1 enemy and it bounces to all other enemies depending how many stacks he has, which is quite interesting. With physical MC, you can choose if you want to attack 1 enemy or 3 enemies with her ult. With Sui Yi, you just attack 1 enemy, and Yunli is just like Clara with extra bounces when she throw ups, when she has ulted. And from the Erudition characters, all of these attack all enemies. It makes sense that they do because they're Erudition characters. They specialize in AoE attacks. Well, Rappa isn't released yet, so we don't know how her kit looks yet. But I assume she will attack all enemies too. From the Harmony characters, no one has an attacking type of ultimate apart from Yukong, because her ult just attacks 1 enemy. The rest of these ults just give a buff to the whole team. From the Hunt characters, all of them, apart from Topaz, attack a single enemy. Because Topaz, her ult, makes it so that Numpy does more damage. From the Nihility characters, all of them attack all enemies except Luca and Silverwolf, which is quite interesting. And from the Preservation characters, Fuswan attacks all enemies with her ult, March 7th, and Fire MC also. Aventurine just attacks 1 enemy with his ultimate, and Gepard doesn't do anything, he just shields the whole team. And now we got the 6th thing that Lingsha does. All of these characters on the screen, including Lingsha, do a special thing. You might have guessed it by looking at the 21st pattern, what this pattern now is, and you might have guessed it correctly. All these characters attack all enemies with a special condition, and that special condition is this. With Himeko, her follow-up attack attacks all enemies when you have weakness broken 3 enemies. With Herta, she does a follow-up attack, hitting all enemies, when an enemy goes below 50% or less HP. And with Jade, she does her follow-up attack when she and or her marked ally have attacked 8 enemies in total. Blade, his follow-up attack is triggered when his HP has been consumed 5 times in total. And with Aventurine, his condition is that he should have 7 of his stacks, which he gets for each shielded ally attacked, or when he casts his ultimate, where he gets like 1 to 7 random stacks, or when any ally does a follow-up attack. So this already proves how good Aventurine is. He has so many ways to get his stacks, but it is quite a lot though, it is 7. And Lingsha also has more ways. And Lingsha is the 6th character to have a special condition where she does a follow attack which attacks all enemies. One way is her bunny just being on the battlefield because it has an action value. So when it's the bunny's turn, it does a follow-up attack attacking all enemies. And the other way the bunny does this follow-up attack is when an ally of your team has 60% or less HP, which is quite nice. So Lingsha has 2 ways to get her bunny do a follow-up attack. And now, the last one. Lingsha is the 5th character to do this. And you might be like, this is quite a weird thing, but you might have noticed it immediately. Maybe Clara might have confused you why she's here. But I assume you might have already guessed it, and that is that all of these characters here attack all enemies with their skill. So Herta, Yuan, Clara, Argenti, and Lingsha attack all enemies with their skill. And we have now 5 characters in the whole game out of the 59 playable that do this, which is quite unique if you look at it. So if you're an endgame player, I highly recommend you to put Herta, Yingguan, Clara or Argenti as a support. And why not Lingsha? I will explain that to you in a moment, but first of all, why should you even set them as support? Well, it is to help low-level players to farm their traces way easier. Since low-level players won't be farming relics, they will be farming traces most of the times. And since they get so little trace material, they spend a lot of time in that domain. And since those enemies are so very squishy, so if they just borrow a Herta, Yingguan, Clara or Argenti from an endgame player, they will just one-shot every wave with their skill. And this is exactly why Lingsha isn't that great of a character to set as support for them. Because she's break effect based. If she doesn't weakness break the enemy, she does 0 damage. Even against low level enemies, it might get too inconsistent. Sometimes she might kill those low level enemies, sometimes she might just not. So that is why if you put a DPS like Herta, Yingguan, Clara or Argenti, they will just crit and kill those enemies in one go. Of course you can put on Lingsha crit rate and crit damage relics, so she can still one-shot those low-level enemies, if you really want to set her as support for those low-level players. But then, every time you really want to use Lingsha, you need to switch out her relics for the sustain relics, which might be a hassle to deal with, so I wouldn't even bother doing that. So just set one of those other 4. And of course, when setting those 4 characters as support for low-level players, make sure they got your best relic pieces, try to level their traces if you can afford it. And also, one thing to keep in mind is to make sure that they have a speed boot, because we want to make sure that the enemy doesn't get the action first before your character gets an action, because some of those enemies in the trace domains are a little bit fast. But as a low-level player, when borrowing an endgame player's character, you want to make sure that you have one character who is faster than that borrowed character. Because if you start a trace domain with your 6 waves, you go into a battle with 3 skill points. And if the endgame player's borrowed character is the fastest of all of your characters, he will do a skill, the next wave he will do a skill again, and after the 3rd wave, you don't have skill points anymore. That's why you want to make sure that you have one character that is faster than that borrowed character, so that they can do just one basic attack to recover a skill point, so you can consistently do a skill every wave with that borrowed character. So make sure to keep that in mind as a low level player. But Herta doesn't have that issue though. I highly recommend you to put Herta as the support character, because 1, she is free, and 2, she doesn't have the skill point issue for low level players, because she will always do a follow-up attack whenever an enemy's HP gets 50% or less. So if a low level player doesn't have a character that is faster than your Herta, Herta will still do an action if she just basic attacks, because after the 3rd wave she won't have any skill points anymore. If she basic attacks, she will do a follow-up attack, one-shot all those enemies, and it's GG. But I went into more detail in 2 other videos I made. One video I made for endgame players on who to set as support, and the other video is for the low-level players to know who to select as support and what to watch out for. So I will link those in the description. And now Rappa. Hopefully she will be the 22nd character to target all enemies with her ultimate, since she is an erudition character. And I will be doing a push-up for every pull I do when summoning for Rappa, just like I did with Fei Xiao earlier in this video, and my non-existent muscles were like sore for a solid week. And I really hope that won't be the same case again with Rappa. So watch out for that summoning video I will do for Rappa. I hope that I won't lose 50-50. Because if they push me to 160 pulls, I don't know how I will manage that. But that's a thing for the future. I thank you for your time and see you next time. Bye.